Hi everyone, my name is Lisa and today I want to talk about my book, Scientific Manifesting. And I just want to improvise, I don't have a script, but I have a couple of things that I want to cover. So first of all, why I decided to write this book, then I guess what qualifies me to really write this type of book, like why am I the person for this particular type of book, and then just in general kind of cover what's inside the book, kind of talk a little bit about why I think it's cool. So let's get started. I'm also having some tea because it's cold and it kind of grounds me a little bit so I can talk better. But yes, so my book is called Scientific Manifesting, and basically that's a synthesis of like science, pretty hardcore science, including neuroscience, psychology, and some quantum physics and mathematics concepts as well on one side. So that's on one side. On the other side, intuitive traditions, meditation. So this book is basically the synthesis of the things that we usually don't bring together. So the science and on one side and intuitive knowledge on the other side. So I don't know much literature, at least from the past few years now. Since I posted this book, I saw a couple of similar concepts being developed by other people recently, but probably for the last 6 years, I didn't see many books of this type of synthesis. And basically, this brings us why I wrote this book. So I was very quantitative. I'm like not an emotional person. I'm a very logical person. And career-wise, I also was very quantitative. So I have a master's in financial mathematics. I worked in big tech, in analytics. And I realized that wasn't really for me, even though I was pretty good at it. So I was looking for an answer, like what am I about, what I want to do. So while I was having my full-time job, in the evening I was obsessed with different kinds of books, neuroscience, physics, mathematics, religion, like anything you could imagine. I was just consuming that information because my logical mind needed to understand the dynamics. My logical mind needed to understand how this world functions and why am I feeling like dissatisfied with my life, which is perfect on paper. And like I had this dream job, and it was pretty much the first like real job I landed in big tech, and people were saying, wow, it takes people so many years to get there, but you got there so fast. But I was still very unhappy. So I was looking for an answer, what I want to do, and I was mapping systems, I was making reports, I was tracking my emotional states, I was tracking my physical states, I was tracking how my thoughts created, I feel like external circumstances, if you can say so, but like this exploration lasted about 6 years. And I feel like it really helped, but ultimately, like it helped in terms of like structuring my mind, creating systems by which I wanted to live. But at the same time, I still felt like shit. I still felt really bad. So it didn't help, right? Like in the grand scheme of things, even though like my understanding has significantly improved. But then I was like, okay, I need to do something else. So I went to a 10-day Vipassana retreat. And that's like changed my perception of how things work in this world, like completely. I feel like I came out of it a completely different person. So after Vipassana, things started changing. And I don't know, it feels like things have accelerated completely. And the only thing that changed after Vipassana was my internal state. and we moved from California to New York basically in the months after Vipassana. And I think 4 months after I left my job to focus on building the business that my husband and I are building. We've been building it for a while before. We've been running it while I had my full-time job. So that was one of the directions that I have received from this intuitive wisdom. So I'm getting there in terms of like why and like how this book happened. So fast forward probably like half a year into my unemployment period, well, business period, we were working on creating the best pet wipes in the market. We're still working on that right now, but there were a lot of delays with external parties, including our factory, because we were asking for a very customized product, which takes a while to create, to produce, and there are a lot of people involved. So there were delays, and basically at some point I had like 2 or 3 months of free time. And I was like, okay, so I went to Vipassana, things changed. I have a system like that I mapped, that I created for myself. So how can I formalize it to create my goals for the business, to create the goals for my life as well? So during those 2 months, basically what I did, I created a system out of the synthesis of the information and also from the intuitive practices. And by the way, at that point, I was doing also Kundalini yoga for about 6 months. I've already doing it for a year and 3 months now, but back then it was probably half a year of practice. And I was like, how do I synthesize this? And so I created that system, and it wasn't formalized like this. It wasn't called scientific manifesting, but the system looked like this. So it's several components that create alignment in our life, and that alignment manifests the reality that we desire if that desired external reality is created from the state of alignment inside of us. So I showed this system to my husband, Alex, and he said basically, oh, you're doing scientific manifesting. And at that point, I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool, because that's pretty much the synthesis of science and intuitive wisdom, which I, couldn't really find before. And I was looking to read the literature about that. So I was like, oh, this should be a book. And I thought it was very naively, I thought it would be easy to write a book since I already had a system. So in my mind, I was thinking that, I just take each component of the system and just describe it, and here we go, that's a book. I couldn't be more wrong. It took me about 11 months to finish it, and I needed to gather a team of 5 people to accomplish what we accomplished. So it's actually a lot of work, especially the editing and the designing. That's just crazy amount of work and discipline, but I feel like it was worth it. And here we go. We have it. And what I want to say, I want to say that this book consists of 3 parts. So the first part is called the shift, and that part describes the concept that I just mentioned, the integration of science and intuitive wisdom, why it's important, and why it's the missing link in our lives and in the systems by which we live nowadays. And then I also go into the scientific part. So this first chapter is called the scientific foundations. And I feel like it's important to go into science, because now the science describes a lot of phenomena that were thought to be purely spiritual even like 10 years ago. So the yeah, the second chapter, well, the first, it dives into neuroscience, the psychology, physics, and why the meditative wisdom traditions can also be called a science, and why we shouldn't dismiss them. Then there is a second part, and it's called the architecture. And what this book does, we are actually creating the system together. We are creating the framework for life step by step. And basically, for example, the second chapter is values, the next chapter is identity. And each chapter has the scientific basis for why it's important to create the life we desire. It also has the exercises and the case studies of like basically which help us first of all relate to the experience and then create this experience in our own lives. And the third chapter is called the evolution. And no matter how good the system is, how robust it is in creating the results that we want, our goal as human beings is to evolve beyond our current version and to kind of develop, because if we stop developing, we kind of stop living really. Like life is a dynamic process. So the evolution part covers how do we evolve the system over time, how it grows with us, and then I wouldn't be myself if I wouldn't go into philosophy as well. So I feel like the first 80% of the book are like very grounded, like framework, system work, all based on like science, like very hardcore science. But then the last 20%, they're more philosophical. Like we're exploring like how our minds really creating the reality based on our framework, exploring how we access different realities and different potentialities through changing our internal states and conditions. And I even dive into how our framework fits with the multiversal idea of reality. So I think it's a really cool exploration, bridging the science and the creativity of human mind. And yeah, I'm really happy how it turned out, because I mean, the original goal for this book was for me to synthesize all the knowledge that I have gathered over the years. And I feel like it was a successful synthesis. And while I worked with the system for almost 2 years, like it never was like systemized like this. So I'm actually, in a way, egoistically, selfishly, looking forward to diving deeper into the frameworks. And like for the next year, I'll be working in creating the life that I desire by using this book. So if you want to give it a try, it's on Amazon. For now, only paperback books are available, and I will release a Kindle version in about 2 weeks. And also, I feel like in the next videos, I'd like to explore the parts of the framework and maybe make a little like small workshop for each part, so you can kind of have a look inside and see what's there, what maybe you can find something that can help you in your life to create better structures, better systems. Thank you so much for listening and for being here. I'll see you soon.